technically 8:59, but we'll call the meeting to order. I'm going to get started by doing a roll call of commissioners, starting here to my left. There's Mr. Morris is here. Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Metropolis.
Here.
Mr. Harbaugh.
Here.
All right. All members present. We have a quorum. I'll go around this table here and introduce the lottery directors, and then maybe actually start with Chet's not a lottery director, but since he's at the table, I'll let you start. So,
thank you, Commissioner Priddy. So I'm Chet McLean with the Governor's Budget Office. Here is in a kind of an advisory consultant role during a transitionary period from the previous finance director to the
Philip Charpentier, IT Services Director.
Corey Bailey, Security Director.
Bob Brown, Director.
Jolene Boyd, Finance Director.
And Charpentier, Marketing and Sales Director.
all right. See everybody. I'll turn it over to Director Brown now for employee introductions.
Thank you, Chair Priggy. So we have two new employees to introduce this time. Corey Bailey, our Security Director. Corey has been married for 24 years and is father of 2 teenage girls. He lives in East Helena, which is a job in itself, right? I've been there. He lives in East Helena. Corey was born and raised in the Helena Townsend area and graduated from Montana State. He has recently retired as Assistant Chief of Police for the Helena Police Department, where he had worked for the last 24 years. Corey started with the Montana Lottery on November 3rd as Security Director and Security and Deputy Director, and he is looking forward to learning all about the lottery and appreciates all the help that he has received from everyone. And I will add that I believe that we made the absolute right choice whenever we chose to hire Corey. He is filling in greatly where our former security director had left off, and all is well there. Second, Greg Bakke, who is a quality assurance analysis. Greg is a Helena native who worked for the Bank of America in the state of Washington, but returned to Helena in 2014 with his wife and now 3 daughters. Before joining the Montana Lottery, Greg worked for the Department of Corrections in their accounting department, where most recently he helped test and onboard that agency with the Sabres, the travel and expense module rollout. He is excited to learn more about the lottery and help out in the IT department as a new quality assurance analyst. Well, I haven't had a lot of experience with Greg yet, other than just saying hi. So, but I'm sure we also made a great choice there. So anyway, welcome and good to have you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, we'll get the meeting formally started with the upfront opportunity for public comment. Anybody in the room have any before we get going here to address? I see John Iverson.
John Iverson, Montana Tavern Association. Thank you for the opportunity. Still chirping at this idea of selling lottery tickets via couriers, via cell phones, and I think it's outside of what's allowed. And so I did have a couple additional questions. I see the presentation from the September 11th meeting that was provided. It says that the Montana Lottery is not affiliated with Jackpocket. They are a licensed sales agent. And that was new to me because in the past they were a courier. And a courier isn't, as I understand it, directly regulated by the lottery. They're just a third-party company that basically, just like an Uber Eats or something like that, picks up a lottery ticket for someone and you think imaginarily that they would drop it off, but they just apparently hold it for you. But there's a couple extra things I learned. So one is this, that it says that they are actually a licensed sales agent. And if they are, then they're subject to the rules that sales agents are subject to. Such as selling tickets at a physical location and not charging more than the face price. And so I think we need to look at that. And something else I would bring to your attention, because last time I brought up the scratch tickets and I was trying to understand how Jack Pocket would be delivering scratch tickets. And so I bought a couple on the app on my phone, but I didn't ever scratch them because, I don't know, I didn't think of it. So they actually scratch them for you involuntarily. If you don't scratch your ticket, they automatically scratch it for you. And they'll let you know if you've won or not, even if you don't scratch the ticket. Whereas when I buy a physical scratch ticket, of course, I scratch it at a time of my choosing. But when you buy them through a courier, they scratch it for you, whether you ask them to or not. And so I have to ask, is that a courier? Is that me asking Steve to run down to the Gas and Go and grab a ticket for me while he's grabbing one for himself? Or are these things entirely different than this concept that they presented but doesn't happen to be true? And so I hope the commission will take this up and look further into this. I think the idea of lottery tickets being sold over the cell phone is completely outside of what the legislature has approved. And if it is in fact something the legislature wants to authorize, then they should first be asked that question. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like we've talked about this quite a bit. I don't, it seems to definitely be some grays there, but do you guys have any thoughts on the legality of this or I know we approved this back, I forget, this was probably over a year ago. We had this discussion and felt that it was within the rules. We've had attorneys look at it, things like that.
I think you're absolutely right, Chairman. We did have a legal opinion, and it did come back that it was above board. And so as far as we're concerned, they are a sales agent, and they have the ability to do what they do within the bounds of our laws, our current laws.
If I may add to that, they are, as mentioned, they are a licensed sales agent. They fall and meet all of the conditions of licensing that every single sales agent that we have has to abide by. We make sure of that. From various security visits, things like that with them. And then also regarding the charging more for our products, they do not charge more for our products. They charge for the service that they provide. It has to do with their wallet and how they manage their account, building an account with them. But the products themselves they're not charged any more than what they are actually worth and what we have established as the price point for our products.
I guess the commissioners, isn't there any comment, maybe, Commissioner Petropoulos, or something from a legal perspective? I see you have your hand raised, I guess. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I don't really have a legal perspective to give, but I have a question. And that is whether the previous legal examination of this service took into account the point that Mr. Iverson seems to be emphasizing today, which is that the service actually scratches the ticket for you. And what happens after that? I don't recall all the details of the previous legal opinion. And if it didn't take that fact into account and that aspect of the service, I guess I would say it's worth asking Mr. Harris to review that also.
Yeah, I guess that would be my question, just from a big picture. In terms of legal authority of the commission, if there's a law on the books from the legislature, we've had a legal opinion that says we're okay to, or the lottery's okay to function in that way. If we step in and go against that, or what's the how do we handle that? So that would be a good. I would like to hear that opinion, like John's recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, Annie, you just mentioned that I'm not sure we were aware of this, that they are a licensed sales agent and they're allowed to charge a service fee Now, no other sales agent that I'm aware of is allowed to charge a service fee, correct?
I mean, they could if they wanted to. I mean, if they have people who are willing to pay that for a service that they're providing, that would be up to them. We don't get involved in that aspect of their business. That's a business decision by a particular business. We are offering our products. They have to be sold at a certain dollar amount. They have to meet those other conditions of licensing. But if they, outside of that, do their business in any particular way and happens to charge a player or a person for additional services, that's on them. That's just their business and that's their model.
So
We don't get involved in
I
that.
think that's, forgive me, I think that's part of the legal opinion. The determination was just as some locations allow you to use debit card and credit card, but they'll charge you for those fees associated with debit card and credit card. It's the same concept, I think. But again, I think we need to get legal opinion.
I would like to see that, and John's talking about it in the legal opinion, also ask that question. If those service fees are allowed, I mean, it would seem to me like, we have the big fever over the millionaire tickets. Now, a smart guy might get out there and they're backed up and he's opening it up at 4 o'clock in the morning. People, people are gonna be lined up for a block. Charge them an extra quarter, charge them an extra 50 cents. And if there's no prohibition against that,
I think there's a lot of different, I'll just say this from a national perspective, there's a lot of different lottery services out there that charge players all kinds of fees and service fees or membership fees, things like that, where they're trying to provide, something further than what the lottery is providing for, with the products. Maybe they're not selling the products, or maybe they are, but that's a business model that they've established. That if people are willing to pay for those services, someone's going to charge them for them. So it is, again, it's outside of what we, our control. We don't control what a person sells additionally in their business place, and it's as long as they are following the rules of how the lottery products need to be sold, and they are doing that. Couriers are doing that. Everyone else is doing that, and we ensure that through our security visits and things like that. We don't make that determination.
Make no mistake, our rules are very specific about charging extra for lottery tickets here. And if that were determined, we would have to put it.
Yeah, so I guess the thing is, like, if you were a tavern, let's say, Steve, but if somebody wanted to, they could go in and they could say, hey, we're gonna start running this, sports bet under the same interpretation, right? We're gonna run a sports bet thing where you could place your bet with us, and we're gonna charge you a convenience fee for doing this, but we're gonna go over and punch numbers into this terminal in our because we're a licensed agent, I'm gonna punch the numbers into that terminal, buy the ticket for you and charge you a fee for it. I mean, it seems like it seems like a similar, setup, and I don't know if you guys have a problem with that.
I think that specific example with sports bet, related to sports bet, we have specific rules defined that prevent that from happening.
Or a treasure play, or
treasure play is traditional lottery, which doesn't fall under sports bet rules. The rules defined, but the same concept, I think, is allowed currently. What you're saying,
So if even if a C-store wanted to, enterprise and convenience store wanted to do a similar thing where they were going to sell scratch tickets and they were going to put up a website and put there's nothing necessarily to stop them from doing the same exact thing.
No.
We're
certainly not able to regulate.
Specific, or is it just accepted? Specific in the statute, or is it just accepted practice by the lottery?
I don't understand the question. What's the question?
Does the statute specifically allow the charging of service fees? Or is it just something that has come about with the jackpot scenario and that just accepted?
I think it's something that's come along with the couriers. Certainly that has, you know, come to more light. Before they were even around, though, there were services that were being charged to players for if they chose to participate in it, they could, you know, get additional services by whomever. So it's not new to charge for, you know, services for lottery products or surrounding lottery, outside of the lottery's, you know, own regulations. So it's probably just brought more to light, like you mentioned. So, but it's not new to have somebody charge for services for lotteries. That's been going on for a long time. If people can tell a player that they have the secret to winning and you charge me $25 to hear what that secret is, you know, you choose to buy it.
I don't believe it's specifically addressed.
No,
in,
it's not.
And maybe this is, and this to me would be like a legislative solution then, right? I mean, if they want to, the legislature wants to take to the table, they can't do this. And I mean,
Yeah.
other than that, because if the current legislation doesn't fit that specific issue,
Right. That's something like that.
then in the legal interpretation of that is that this is fine. And I don't know what we can do about it.
And really, do we want to be that regulator? You know, we're a regulator for our products, we're a regulator for
Right.
the services that we do. That's outside of that in a very, I mean, now you're getting involved in people's businesses and what they're doing, and we don't normally do that.
But you are.
We don't have the
you are a
resources.
Regulatory
We are.
body and you when a person signs up with you to be a sales agent, then have to follow the rules. Now you say they are, but
Yeah.
we don't know. We don't know that that's, John says that it's not allowed. Here, he can't find it in statute, you know, it's just an accepted practice, I believe, so. I mean, that's one way to clear it up.
But I like your idea of like the three different lines of outside the convenience store, the morning Montana Millionaire goes up. You pay $10 to the station, you get to stand on this line, you pay $5 to get to stand on this line, you pay $3 to get to stand on this line, and then everybody gets to go. And that's
Or well, that's fine.
making extra money off of the back of the lottery. The lottery.
$10 will buy your ticket for you.
Right, that's where
There it is.
Right, so it's like,
Same.
yeah. So I mean, it does seem like it's a gray area and I'd like to hear more about it. So if you would ask, you know, I think it's not Dawn, right?
No, Don is on, isn't he? He's listening or available.
He is listening if we do need him,
Right,
however.
But just.
I don't think we want to ask him to form an opinion here.
No,
No,
but if
No,
Dawn,
no.
if you would look into this, that'd be great.
And to
Report back next commission meeting.
answer the question, yes, Don has accepted a new position. He is legal, the attorney for the procurement office now. However, he is still helping us as well, so we can reach out to him.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
So,
could I just say, now that I know that Don is on, that I'd like to work with Don to formulate the question that he looks into?
okay.
We can certainly arrange that.
And Don, I think you have my contact information.
Well, thanks, Mr. Iverson. Appreciate your comment. Well taken. So going in order on the agenda, we'll move on to information technology update with Director Phil Charpentier.
Prior to starting, I just want to make sure there's no hands raised for
Oh,
any
correct.
attendees.
Correct. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I see.
Public comment at this time.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. Phil Charpentier, IT Services Director for the Montana Lottery. Since the last commission meeting, the IT department has continued testing software enhancements, resolutions, improvements to the system, and new software. After the deployment of the new website, mobile app, and Players Club this past August, we have since found, tested, and resolved issues with the website, improved connectivity to the backend system, updated missing information, and improved the look, feel, and behavior of those public-facing assets. I do want to take the time, and it should be noted though, that the teams working on those assets are excellent, extremely responsive to the lottery needs and requests. And frankly, the new Players Club is and was rock solid the entire time from launch till now. We're very lucky to be working with Splashdot for the Players Club, with the Went advertising agency for the website, with 303 Solutions for the mobile applications and help with the website, and of course with Intralot ensuring and supporting backend connectivity with all those assets. So this was and continues to be a very successful upgrade. In the IT department, we also helped the sales and marketing team test and launch 2 Players Club promotions. We had the Bonus X Second Chance promotion offered during the launch of the website. And most recently, the start of the Just for the Holiday of It promotional campaign, also available on the Players Club. That went well and continues to go well. The IT department has also tested IT security upgrades to our sales agent website portal and Sportsbet Montana mobile applications discovered during the latest round of penetration testing. So we do penetration testing every year, and we take action on any items we find there. We have also added PDF printable forms to the sales agent portal for ease of access and use by our sales agents. We added a form that they can print off and send to us easily and quickly. A couple other software releases tested and deployed this past quarter include the updated Montana Millionaire Game Matrix for 2025 season. This was tested and deployed on time and on schedule. 620,000 tickets selling out in exactly, not approximately, but rather exactly 6 hours and 30 minutes to the second. Another successful sales season in the books. And as usual, we have a few takeaways from that event, a few lessons learned, as we do every season, as this game continues on its journey of evolution. We also tested and deployed Sportsbet Montana same game parlay wagering for football, hockey, and basketball. More markets will be added as this offering is refined. During our last commission meeting, I reported on progress with our sports betting player experience with the mobile application. Improvements have been tested and deployed to provide a better and more reliable player experience while placing those wagers on the mobile application. And we will continue to make that a better experience for those sports betting account players in location. As Director Brown noted, we recently hired Greg Bakke as our latest quality assurance analyst. And although it was not mentioned, we also recently hired a new student internal controls officer as well. So the IT department is fully staffed, running at capacity now. And I appreciate that as we have transitioned into the lottery operating system conversion mode. So as was noted in the prior commission meeting, the new lottery operating system contract has now been signed. The statement of work has been defined, and we are in full conversion mode now. This is a big endeavor for the IT department, for Intralot, and for the entire lottery office and our sales reps in the field, as well as for our partner sales agents and Montana lottery players. The lottery is working closely with Intralot to ensure a safe, smooth, non-disruptive conversion process. Our goal is to ensure we continue to provide our products uninterrupted to the players of the Montana Lottery, while also providing the least amount of disruption. I'm so sorry. Yes, the least amount of disruption to our partner sales agents in the field as they get new communications first. Right now, they're getting upgraded on their communications network. And then later in 2026, new terminals, I should say. So our conversion plan includes notifications to all sales agents so no one is blindsided by a technician showing up ready to upgrade their communications or swap out their terminal. So this is a coordinated effort with our lottery sales representatives the Intralot field technicians, and our partner sales agents. All stakeholders will be well informed during this conversion effort. And of course, before the sales agents can receive their new terminals, we need to replace all the back-end central systems. The lottery will be receiving all new tools and utilities to ensure we can do our jobs with the latest and greatest Intralot software and equipment. So we in the lottery IT department are well ensconced in this process now. We will continue to be throughout the entire conversion process. We are helping to ensure lottery staff requirements are met with these new services. We will test those new utilities and services. We will ensure the new system, the new software and new equipment is secure. And it is multi-state lottery association approved and functioning as expected. So a lot to do in that process. This has been and will continue to be our top priority throughout the conversion process and beyond for the foreseeable future. Minimally, at least a year's effort. But as my quality assurance analyst supervisor says, it really never ends. Keeps us busy always. Not to mention, we also have a few things coming up on the horizon. Looking forward to the next quarter, we will be testing and deploying the new Millionaire for Life multi-state daily game. This game is scheduled to start February 22nd, and it is replacing the Lucky for Life daily game. As mentioned earlier, the IT department and the entire lottery staff is immersed in our conversion efforts going forward into the next quarter and beyond. So we're going to keep working on that. And finally, I have been helping in any way possible as best I can, Director Boyd and Internal Controls Coordinator Chet McLean, with their efforts to ensure the lottery financial journal are sorted. And I will continue to offer my help and support with that effort as long as it takes. They'll speak to that later. That's all I have today. Are there any questions?
No? Questions online from the commission? It's like a lot of work.
Busy time.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so move on to an Intralot update with the General Manager of Intralot, Scott Haas.
Chief Commissioner and everyone. I only have a few quick updates. To follow up on Director Charpenter's comments on the conversion of the gaming system. Intralot has started writing business user stories that will define the functionality of the system. We have broken the stories out by lottery department to ensure that subject matter experts from each department are working directly with us before development takes place. So when the new system is delivered, it will be exactly what the lottery expects. It will be around 1,300 stories that will require lottery's approval before we can develop that part of the system. And it is a lot of work. Bill's right. It's a ton of work for everybody. Additionally, all of the terminals have been ordered. We're working with Ann and her team to design the user interface for each of the different terminal types and marketing designs for the physical branding of the hardware itself. And lastly, operationally, Pat Johnston has done a great job filling positions for the field service manager, as well as the technician positions in Great Falls and Butte, bringing us to full capacity in the field. Along with the new contract, Intralot is adding 3 more field service techs, and we've hired one of them that's helping out in Missoula. We've also finished filling the positions in our warehouse and call center in the home office. That's all I've got. Any questions?
Questions on? Right, no, thank you, thank you. Okay. Marketing sales report with Director Anchuk.
Good morning, everybody. As you probably noticed, we did a little bit of a shift in the agenda, kind of in response to the conversation that we had during the last meeting about maybe my information being a little more useful before the financial detail is presented. So we did a little shift, and that's why I'm going now for finance. So hopefully that helps with some clarity of just the overall sales that are going on. So do want to start out with our fiscal year 26 overview. One more there. Thank you. We will start with reviewing sales by product for the first 20 weeks of the fiscal year. And as you know, jackpots can make or break a product success. And the evidence of this reflects in all of our numbers here. Generally, products are performing very well. Powerball is still holding on to its significant increase due to the large jackpot it had in the beginning of the fiscal year. That is only going to be strengthened by the jackpot that is currently growing for the game. Mega Millions made up considerable ground when its jackpot in October just about hit the $1 billion mark. Our local games, Montana Cash and Big Sky Bonus, are 34 and 11% higher than the same time last year. The Scratch product continues to exceed expectations with a 2% increase in product activations. And wagers for Sports Bet Montana continue to be strong throughout the football season and fueled further by the start of pro and college basketball. So just 2 of our products are seeing decreased sales activity at this point. And Lotto America has been challenged by the sales it had last year at the same time from a large jackpot run that it experienced. And Treasure Play sales are realizing a substantial decrease of 28%. One contributing factor that we know is causing this is the lack of larger jackpots in those progressive offerings that we have. Overall, we are currently 17% positive from where we were last year at this time, and an excellent way to enter into the second half of our fiscal year. Next slide, please. So we are always focused on exceeding our sales figures year after year, but we need to prioritize selling more of the right products, the ones with the best profit margins. Here we are looking at each of our products and their profitability for fiscal year 25 as compared to profit numbers from 25 to 26. 7 of our 10 products are currently showing increased net profit. One of those 10 are even with last year, and 2 products are lower than last year. Montana Millionaire, being lower by 1 percentage point, as you can see towards the end there, is a bit deceiving in its comparison, because even though the game profit percentage is a little lower, the overall sales are 1.4 million higher than last year. And the odds of winning were just slightly better this last year as well. The increased profit of our products is continuing to be a primary focus of the marketing department. It is critical for us to sustain the health of our agency through the growing profits and meeting the mission of maximizing our return to the state of Montana. Next slide, please. We'll just quickly review a few of the product performances in the coming slides, starting with Montana Cash, the $1 million plus jackpot that we recently had a few weeks ago, contributed to good sales. Sales are substantially higher and contributing positively with a 34% profit margin. Next slide. Closer look at Mega Millions does show an increase in the sales that's been fueled by that close to $1 billion jackpot in October. Next one. And then with Powerball, we are in the midst of approaching another $1 billion jackpot. Current jackpot is at $820 million. The hope is that we see a $1 billion jackpot throughout the entire holiday season. That would be great. So fingers crossed. Next one. So Treasure Play, we have a percentage decrease so far, as I mentioned. Much of the effort in the next 6 months will help build on those slumping sales and encourage play of the Treasure Play offering. And Sportsbet Montana continues to grow in popularity. Betting activity spans all sports types, but the driver of the second quarter is football. NFL popularity remains, but with the success of the state's universities football programs, we are seeing increased betting when they have games that they're offering. So we all know the popularity of the Brawl of the Wild. Want to do the next slide for me? And this year was of no exception. With both teams near the top of the standings, it was an even a matchup with all the excitement and anticipation the event is really known for. 2025's total sales just for that event were $234,865. We were just under the record for bets placed, but did achieve a record average bet of $44. So that was definitely a successful event for us in sports betting. Next slide. And now moving to Scratch, in comparison to last year at this time, the product is performing strong with a 2% increase as mentioned in comparison to last fiscal year. I would like to point out that our increase is not the current standard for the industry. We recently received word that we are one of only a couple states in the nation that is reporting positive Scratch sales so far this year. So we intend to keep it that way throughout the rest of the year, at least to be above where we were last year. So it's a really great testament to the work that's being done with the Scratch products. Jay Bond, our Scratch product manager, and all the work of the sales force as well are definitely contributing greatly to their business. And our holiday and Scratch games, the holiday Scratch games were launched in October. They're always popular with the players and the sales agents alike, especially for gift-giving purposes. And as our responsible giving campaign encourages, is that lottery products are great gifts, but should be only for those that meet the age requirements for playing. And as Philip mentioned, and to make those holidays a little more special, exclusively for our Valued Players Club members, we have a promotion running in the month of December to award players who enter their Lotto, Scratch, or Treasure Play tickets for entries into 4 special drawings that will be held throughout December and then into January. All right, and then just a quick wrap up of Montana Millionaire. And I say wrap up, obviously, just halfway through. We're still in it at this point. So we did start our sales on November 1st at 5:30, just as planned. So this is the information about the game that you've seen before. Next slide. And I just provided some summary facts here. We sold out at noon, as mentioned, right on the dot, 6.5 hours. The tickets were on sale. Our highest sales hour was between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., where we sold over $259,000 in tickets. Just to go through some of the other numbers here, $12.4 million in sales was achieved during that time period. $620,000 were paid in commissions to our sales agents and our business partners. We did a profit of 3.3+ million in that time frame, and that equates to $515,000 in profit per hour, or $8,585 per minute. And we achieved a $95,657 in profit per lottery team member. So very proud of this game and the achievements that it did this year and are continuing to do. We still have our $5 million winners that we're going to draw on December 26th. So. All right, and then as mentioned also, there's a reminder regarding Millionaire for Life, and it starts on February 22nd. This is a big priority for the marketing department. You can do the next slide, sorry. Communication plans and other launch information for sales agents and players are being distributed now. And the successful launch of this will be in February, and a big focus of the marketing department here in the next coming months. And next slide. As it was discussed in the last commission meeting, in an effort to provide a complete overview of the business of the Montana Lottery, we produced a Lottery 101 document. This contained information specific to our agency, the industry, our sales agent partners, our vendors, and a bunch of other general information and resources that we provided to you. You all received the document in an email here not long ago. Please note this information is perpetually being refined and updated as our products and services do change on occasion. So we will make sure it's kept up to date. But I just wanted to touch base and see if there are any questions or anything regarding that information that was provided. Okay.
John?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank the staff for providing that. I think it was, at least I started the ball rolling and asking for some information, and they really came through, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, agree.
Excellent. All right. And just what's coming up here in the next few months, obviously I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's my fault. I was late raising my hand. I want to thank you for 101. I really wanted the Cliff Note version though, because it was pretty massive. So can you make a Cliff Note version for me?
We can attempt that, yes. There's a lot of information, I know.
No, there was a lot. And all of the rules for every organization started to bog me down, but I really do appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a lot going on. As mentioned, the central gaming system conversion is a big focus to the whole lottery and as well as the marketing department. We have the Montana Millionaire Grand Prizes that will be drawn here at the end of the month. The profit optimization efforts that we will always make a priority within our department. And we have sports bet. There's a lot of events that are going to be coming up. NFL and NCAA football regular season and the playoffs. We've got NBA and NCAA basketball that are fired off, and that's doing some great wagering there. We have the Winter Olympics that are coming up, and we do have markets for those. So we'll be working to work on, the details of that. We did also just receive word that there is a MMA fight with our local Sean O'Malley. And we know that in the past, that's been a pretty big event for us. And so we will be planning some assets and things surrounding that event. And then Millionaire for Life game launch in February. So it's a busy time. That's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
That's got a lot going on. Yeah, any questions online from the commission for Ann? All right.
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you very much. Let's move on to the financial report with Jolene and Chad.
I'm just gonna say good morning. Although I'm not reporting the financials, I'm gonna have Chet do that. But I've been keeping busy managing daily operations, writing and developing procedures that haven't been there. Assisting with the working group to figure out the discrepancies and conversion.
Yeah.
And now I'll turn it over to Chet.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so again, I'm Chet McLean, for the record. That's CLV EAN of the Governor's Office of Budget and Program Planning. To give a quick history or perhaps status update of where we're at today. So, as we all know, about 9 months ago, Lottery suddenly and tragically lost its finance director. I was then asked because the lottery has a statutory reporting requirement for these quarterly reports, as well as a statutory requirement for the transfer to the other funds, the general fund, and to the Office of Higher Education. It was important to start work right away in the situation. And so I did that. Thank you for bringing me online. to the lottery staff. It became apparent real quick that there were some issues. As I had reported to the commission previously, several of the financial reports that had been presented to the commission in the past included errors. For example, the September 30th, 2024 financial report didn't balance by more than $2.5 million. And from an accountant's perspective, we like everything in balance, and that indicated some problems. And certainly we've unearthed some accounting irregularities in the system. One issue that was very obvious was there was material amounts of revenues that weren't properly posted into the accounting system. Montana Millionaire, last year's game, for example, we have chatted about this in previous commission meetings. Also, there were material amounts of sports betting revenues that weren't properly recognized. Now, I just for way of clarification, those were revenues in an accounting perspective, not in terms of a cash flow perspective. And so it became apparent that a number of things needed to be updated and corrected in the accounting system. And so for the past 9 months now, we've been spending a significant amount of time to hopefully everybody is okay with being open about it. There is an accounting mess that's happened here at Lottery. And so we've been spending a significant amount of time to clean up the mess. And that's a point I really wanted to emphasize to the commission today, because as Chairman Prigge and everybody has noticed in the last 3 quarterly reports that we discussed, they looked unusual. The results that were presented in the report were unusual in that they didn't really look like the reports that the commission was accustomed to seeing. And the reason primarily is because we've had to correct a number of things like the revenues and the balancing issues. And so to say it as simply as I possibly can, a lot of journals have been posted into the accounting system that reflect transactions and events that occurred in periods other than when they were posted into the accounting system. The 4th quarter of fiscal year 2025, the report that we presented to you last quarter, is a great example of this. The transfer that we recommended to the commission and that the commission approved was unusually large. It was about $12 million. And normally a transfer or a quarterly transfer is expected to be somewhere around $4 million. And it was all because of the timing of when certain journals were posted into the accounting system. So that's a point I want to emphasize, because today's quarterly results are going to be similar in that the results are unusual. And one of the reasons why the results are unusual for this first quarter of fiscal year 26 is because this first quarter for several of the games only include 2 months of activity. So a quarter, of course, is 3 months. And so when we get to the income statement, you'll see that the numbers that I'll be sharing with you are about 1/3 lower than what they normally would be for a quarter, simply because of the timing of when journals were posted into the accounting records. To give just slightly more detail on that, a number of the invoices are received in the month of October, even though they relate to September's activities. And that's fairly common with any organization, that you'll receive the invoices after month end. And so because those invoices are received in October, that is when those transactions are reflected in October. So you will see some lower numbers in this first quarter report. It's, of course, a thing, but I know what's going on, and we have a reasonable explanation for what's happening. What that ultimately means for the commission's awareness is that the transfer that is being recommended to you today is a bit lower than normal, but it has a reasonable explanation, and I'm comfortable with it. So I'm encouraging you also to be comfortable with it. The other thing that I wanted to mention as far as introductory comments before I get into the details of the report is I'm gonna show you a cash situation that is in part relating to the timing of when journal entries are posted into the system. And it's a kind of a scary concept actually, and I'm comfortable using that word scary because as of fiscal year 25, which is to say June 30th of 25, the lottery cash position was actually negative $9 million. And the reason it was negative $9 million, and thank you, Director Charpentier, for putting the balance sheet for June 30th of 2025 on the screen. Now, Commissioner Metropolis, you had asked that the balance sheet for last quarter be presented. Well, we're presenting it now, and I want to show you why at June 30th, 2025, the lottery's cash position was a negative $9 million. And it primarily relates to the transfer that was approved for that fourth quarter of 2025. We recommended and the commission approved a transfer obligation, and you can see it there on the screen, of $11.9 million. So $12 million was that transfer for the fourth quarter. Director Charpentier, if you scroll up now to the top, and on this cash line, you only have $3 million of cash. And so you were $9 million short of cash. And of course, a question that should be in everybody's mind is why is the cash? So the short of it is it's in the general fund. And I've been doing some procedures and work on this question because cash is, of course, king. Where's the cash? Well, there's some reasons for it. We've established a working group with several other CPAs around the state, and I want to make sure that I've vetted everything with their consensus and everything. But the short of it is that the cash is sitting in the general fund, and it's also primarily because of the timing of when certain accrual entries are made versus when the cash is collected on the revenue or cash goes out the door for expenses. And it's an interesting concept because I think right now is a good time to make some changes. And in fact, those changes have already been implemented. One of the things that we've already implemented is a concept of the quarterly reports that are going to be presented to the commission going forward are not going to make a number of accrual entries at a quarterly basis. That is primarily the reason why you were short cash. And if this has been an issue for several years, the Legislative Audit Division, as you're aware, recently issued the fiscal year 2023 audit. And in that audit, there was a finding because the lottery has a statutory requirement to issue 4 quarterly transfers, but the finding was that the lottery did not make 4 quarterly transfers during fiscal year 23. It only made 3. The reason why, in my opinion, that finding happened was because you didn't have enough cash available to make the transfer. And so the lottery was delaying making that transfer in fiscal year 23 until it had sufficient cash in its bank account because of, again, this is all about an accounting thing where certain transactions like revenues and expenses are being accrued for the financial report, which is the basis for the transfer determination, but you hadn't actually received cash yet because the cash would come in a month or 2 down the road. So going forward, the transfer determination is going to be based on solely the transaction and events that have been posted into the accounting system. And the quarterly report is not going to pull in extra revenues or reverse out prior quarter activity. And that's probably more detail than you want about how accounting works. But I believe that it's a good solution and it'll better align the transfer determination with the cash flows that will underwrite those transfer obligations. So where is cash today? If we could flip to the financial report now, Director. Thank you. So the cash at June 30th was at negative $9 million. 3 months later, by September 30th of 2025, yes, please scroll to the cash line. You actually see a zero number for September 30th of 2025. The cash position is actually technically still zero, negative. Director, if you could scroll down to the current liabilities section, there's a line here, if you could possibly point to it, due to primary government. It's of $4.3 million. So in a conceptual sense, you can't have negative cash, right? That doesn't really happen. But what ends up truly happening is you've borrowed $4.3 million from another organization, and that organization is the state of Montana's treasurer. So you've borrowed $4.3 million from the general fund, essentially state general fund, and I'm reporting it on your financial statements as a liability, 4.3. So that's why you see that zero. But truthfully, the lottery as of September 30th has negative $4.3 million. As of this week, I ran a query on Tuesday. The lottery is actually in the black. It has been fully recovered at this point. So you have $5.5 million as of Tuesday this week. And so one of the things that should be people should be thinking in their minds right now is, wow, that's a really fast recovery. And yeah, it is, right? Within a few months, you were able to turn around negative $9 million of cash. And I offer that idea for additional assurance that what we're talking about here is a timing issue between accrual accounting versus cash basis accounting. And it has a lot to do with when those journals are being posted to the accounting records. It also has a lot to do with the fact that we're making many correcting entries. So as I indicated, we've been 9 months identifying corrections, and we've been posting a lot of those corrections in the accounting records. So those are, maybe I'll pause there.
Yeah.
And see if there's any questions from the commission.
Yeah, I think that's a, good explanation. It's a lot to understand is that, to take in as like probably a non-account, but I think that from a layperson trying to, translate that into a, basically, a cash basis accounting, it's going to look different on these books because, example would be like Montana Millionaire a couple of years ago, and we didn't have a prize winner. And under an accrual basis of accounting, you have the sales and you're going to assume that you're going to have to pay that $1 million prize out. So you're going to put that $1 million prize payment on the books, accrue it, even though you haven't made it yet, right? And then if down the road you don't actually make that payment, that expense goes away. And so when Chet's talking about accrual basis numbers, you're thinking of, assumptions on how things are going to work and how things are going to be timed out. And that accountant that's making those accruals has a lot of discretion on what those numbers are and how they're accrued. And I think that a lot of those, accruals had been made, appropriately throughout the years, but from what it looks like, there was just some couple long-term accruals that were going to just the wrong types of accounts. And so it made the books look like that, he's trying to match up the books. So when you're trying to do accounting, you're trying to match up, okay, here's how much you brought in, like that millionaire question. Your books would look super goofy if you had $5 million in sales, and no expense coming out. You're going, what do you mean? We're going to have to pay somebody sometime. So when we look at these things on a cash basis, we're not going to have these smooth transfers, right? Because you're going to have all these, you might have a quarter worth cash. You have a bunch of prize, payouts, and they might, exceed the money you brought in. So in theory, if you're just going on cash basis, you could have a quarter where you don't have the cash to pay the transfer like you saw on there, just because of timing of when money's coming in, when money's coming out. But that next quarter, you have a big swing because you'd have more sales, but all the prizes have already been paid. And so there's a benefit to accrual basis accounting and making those adjustments on the books, but it's not as, if things go haywire there, things can get pretty misleading into what the reality is actually happening. And I think one of the comforting things is I've been working on a few of these calls with the working group and talking with Chet and Jolene and the other folks involved that, there doesn't appear to be, the cash transactions kind of are what they are. That money's coming into the account and the money's going out of the account. And that's happening on like this cash basis. And then the reporting and the timing entries are those entries that are being posted by an accountant into the books. And so if those are messed up, it's not that the actual money in and out is wrong. It's just that the books are wrong. The actual report that you're looking at and we're approving transfers is wrong. So that's why if there's an error in the report showing there's more money in there than there is because of those adjustments, we're approving that transfer. So in effect, we sent too much money to, we sent too much money to the general fund. And so it is complicated, but it's basically an accountant making accruals, trying to estimate what this cash situation actually looks like, or what the financial situation actually looks like, not necessarily what the outcome of the cash flow actually is. I don't know, does that make sense, Chet? Is that?
I think your characterizations of what's happening there are accurate and correct. Yeah. So
it's an the accountants are making adjustments to books all the time, and you're doing it, and everybody's trying to do it because you're trying to make it look like it makes sense. And sometimes if you just look at stuff, especially, if you think of the timing of a lottery, there's all sorts of different timing issues that are going to come into play here. Just simple transactions of who's going to, if you make it, the timing of when somebody cashes out a sports bet slip, right? You have the cash, somebody makes a bet, they could sit on that slip for 6 months. Yeah, I mean, they could sit on that slip forever. And so you're trying to estimate when time that up. Okay, we know the slip was, well, we know there's a winning bet, so we're going to put that on the books. But that doesn't mean that person came in and cashed. So if you wait and not do that, everybody comes in 6 months later and cashes all their slips at the same time, you're going to have weird looking stuff on the books, and it's tough to. But I think that is the better way for us as a commission to approve these transfers, because we know the cash is. So when you're looking at that past report, where you're looking at, okay, we've got $3 million in the account, and we got approved a $10 million transfer, but there's also $12 million in receivables there. So there's all kinds of timing. Maybe those receivables are going to come in the next week, and you have plenty of money to cover the transfer, right? So it's on an accrual basis. It's just difficult to really tell you. Really, that accountant really needs to be sharp and on point with what they're doing and how they're adjusting those books.
Yeah, and I'd just simply add to that, Chairman, that so you have an interesting set of circumstances. Under state law, you're required to transfer your net revenues to other funds, and that transfer is truthfully a cash basis kind of thing. A transfer is a cash, it's permanent one-way movement of cash. But yet the financial reports that have been presented to you were on a different basis of accounting. And so what I'm encouraging these financial reports to be going forward is closer to a cash basis. And the quarterly reports are not going to make the quarterly accrual entries that the previous director of finance was making. Now, he wasn't unreasonable for doing all of those quarterly transfers, but it created a misalignment of that transfer determination from what you actually had the capacity to make. And so if we stop doing those quarterly accruals, it will better align that transfer determination with the financial results that are being presented as the basis for that transfer. So I think that'll help solve the problem. I would point out that this problem's been going on for several years, as shown by the fiscal year 2023 audit. It was a problem even back then because you didn't have enough cash to make 4 quarterly transfers during fiscal year 23.
Mr. Chair. Yep. Chet, you said, you showed on there that we actually bought $4 million.
Yeah.
Or we have a $4 million debt to the state, and it's that the general fund.
Yeah.
But then you said that as of Tuesday, we were $5 million in the black.
Correct.
Is that $4 million? Is that something that we have to pay back?
No.
It just carried. I mean,
It's
is that always going to show there, or just through Sure.
It's recovered. So your cash flows are fine.
So-
Your cash position is fine. At this point in time, you do not owe the state general fund.
So that zeroes out.
Yep.
And then the 5 million is there, I mean,
Yeah.
as of Tuesday, thank you.
And then as we transfer funds, that I'll kind of balance it out. If we're just looking at the cash basis, we won't be in that position anymore where you could be over, over your skis that way.
I
So that's a good question.
make sure that we weren't saying, well, we owe 4 million, but we have 5 million, but actually we got paid it back or something.
That's because the other thing, timing wise too, is you're always looking at this thing, you're looking at a quarterly report, right, from September 30th today. That's what we're looking at, right? It's December 3rd. So it's always in timing is always like that's what that, if you heard them over and over again saying it's rules and timing and all that stuff all gets reported, and it's complicated. And digging into this, I mean, I can't believe how complicated this stuff was. And I guess to speak to like the last few years with Armand, I think that the other thing that was going on and that we knew there was an issue. I mean, there was an understanding that, okay, they didn't know what the issue was that bad, but it was like, hey, something's going on with Armand, right? We're gonna get this sorted. We're gonna get this sorted out. We're gonna bring in where we've notified legislative audit. We've notified, we've contacted, Chet McLean. We've done these things. So it was we just didn't know what the extent of it was, until Chet really dug in and started to look. So it wasn't like we were necessarily asleep at the wheel, but it was like we've got to get our arms around this thing, and it's been a process.
Well, that's kind of the point, though, that we kind of kicked this thing under the rug, Armand, and then everybody kind of knew there was something going on, something was up, and then when he finally passed, unfortunately, then this is all going to come to light. But there was an inkling, or there was a knowledge that something was a little fishy here, a little haywire. And, Chet says, I mean, moving forward, we're going to have this to where this situation shouldn't occur again. Then, great.
Yeah, I think it's just it was the other thing too, is there's, in terms of, kicking on the rug or whatever, I mean, it's a personnel issue too. So it's like, we had discussions, do you go into a closed session, do you go into all this other stuff? It was a tricky call. And I think that at the time it's like, let's get these accountants in here that know what's going on and can look into this and see what's happening. And that process started at that point. Right. I think it was a prudent step.
But I mean, there were periods, I mean, if it goes back to 2023 or even further than that, there was probably a point in there where Armand should have been called on the carpet. Somebody should say, hey, this doesn't pass the smell test here. So we did, and it's behind us now. So
Yeah, so that's actually a great point, and one that I've been contemplating privately. And I wasn't necessarily prepared to make this statement during a public commission meeting, but one of the overarching kind of things here is your point exactly, that where was the oversight? And one of the issues, or one of the tools that the commission could potentially have available to it is through the use of internal audit. And so we were chatting a bit about quality assurance in the IT department and these things. And that's kind of what I do normally is audit work and internal audit work. And it can be very helpful to have an independent third party, that has adequate protections to do his or her job, right? So one of the things about internal audit is you never want your internal auditor to report in the middle of an organization. report under management somewhere. What you want to do with an internal auditor is you want to structure him or her so that they report to the highest level of an organization. So in this context, it would be to you. You know, if you had an internal auditor that reported directly to the commission, that had full authorization to look at, and these are just generalized concepts. They're not, I'm not talking about lottery specific necessarily, but if you have an internal auditor that reports directly to the highest level of the organization, that has full authorization to look at any file and, you know, dig and ask anybody any question that they need to ask, that's going to be a much more effective internal auditor than one that would be improperly structured, which is to say reporting into the middle of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen several examples in my career where you had improperly structured internal auditors that didn't report to the highest level of the organization. And I'll use a technical term here. They often get squashed. And it's not because the management has bad intentions or anything, but it's more often because management either is too busy to answer a bunch of questions, or they don't want to create additional problems for their boss. They don't have bad intentions. It's really, they end up squashing the internal auditor because it solves other problems, perhaps. And so anyway, I wanted to share that with you as something for you to think about, that maybe you are a $150 million organization, and it might be something that you want to put in place is to have somebody here at this table for these commission meetings that speak to you from an internal auditor. Food for thought.
Yeah, or even a finance committee portion of the commission or something, you know, where you have somebody that's actually doing that work. And I guess, you know, having the books, you know, audited over and over again until you're thinking that actual external audit's happening too, and that's going to bring the stuff up. But you know, I guess for 2023 it did, but I don't think we got that report until 2025. And so it's hard to you know, I guess that's the thing that I said that the first commission this all came up is like you make assumptions that there's audits going on and there's stuff like this actually happening. And I guess that's on me for, you know, on the commission for not following up to make sure those things are actually happening. But how would that process start in terms of, would that be a DOA or an intergovernmental? I mean, is internal audit common on these agencies like our size? Or, I mean, why wouldn't have that, you know, kind of been going on all along?
Yeah, so generally in the state of Montana, there is not a lot of internal auditors. So some of the largest agencies do have internal audit functions. DPHHS has an internal audit bureau. The Department of Transportation has an internal audit section. And these are huge organizations, right? DPHHS is probably the state's largest organization by expenditure type. Or the lottery in terms of expenditure activity. But perhaps, given how complicated you are, it might be justified. Did I hear a question from Commissioner Taylor?
No. Mm-mm.
Before we dig into the report, any other questions from the commission? John, Metropolis?
Yeah, I have a simple question, but I'm going to preface it with a maybe not simple statement. I am loath to contradict my fellow commissioners, but I feel I have to say I was not aware that there were reasons to be concerned about the work that Armand reported to us. And I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm very, very willing, not only willing, I'm determined to move forward and get us on the right path. But so I'll leave it at that. Here's my one simple question. Mr. McLean, I have really appreciated your information and your candor. And I would like to know, are you going to be available to help us get on and stay on the right path for the time being?
Chairman, yes, I would prefer to do that. In fact, one of the things I wanted to communicate to the commission is so we've had some unusual financial reports for the last 3 quarters that I presented. Today's also will be unusual. And then I would expect that the rest of fiscal year 26 will similarly have some unusual results, although the degree of unusuality, if that's will decrease, at least probably for the next 2 quarters, but the 4th quarter for 26 probably would be a kind of an annual truing up for the year. And so that quarter will probably be unusual. And so my preference would be to see this through. I'm hoping that's lottery and the commission will allow me to continue to work with you.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate your home organization allowing you to help us out. If you would relay that appreciation, I'd appreciate it.
A lot of appreciation for Chet.
Yes. Thank you.
So just because this is a recorded meeting and there may be people that are looking back at this in the future that are looking back to this, my question for you, Chet, we found no sign of any nefarious action. It was just, errors in our accounting practices.
Correct, Director. So certainly there are a lot of red flags have been raised for me, right? Where's the cash? It's a big question. So been looking into it, and I found 0 evidence of any type of nefarious activities, anything that would bespeak of fraudulent activity. So it appears to be an accounting department that wasn't doing the kinds of things that I would expect an accounting department to do, including, producing financial reports that didn't balance, not posting journal entries altogether. So it appears to be an accounting issue, and it does not appear to be fraud.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, let's go to this quarter's report.
So, Chairman, returning back to the statement of net position for June 30th of 2025. Highlights here for the statement of net position. And the statement of net position, your balance sheet, is a way to understand kind of your net worth, where you're sitting in the economic universe. And so I offer that as just kind of an evaluatory kind of framework for thinking about this, what I'm about to say. So here in the current asset section, you have 0 for cash. That's important. Your receivables, which relate to your kind of gaming activities. Now that number is down from last time, but as I mentioned earlier, there's only 2 months worth of activity. So typically that number would have been higher if it would have been 3 months worth of activity. And really that $4 million difference between total current assets this quarter versus the first quarter last year is primarily about your cash position, your negative cash, which got reclassified down to the liability section. The non-current asset section is interesting because the games really don't affect the non-current assets. These are items like your buildings, your equipment, long-term assets. Notice that those numbers are stable at about $2 million this quarter as well as this quarter last year. And so that bespeaks of the journal entry issue, not necessarily because of other issues. Scrolling down into the liability section, now your current liabilities will be impacted by the journals that are causing our problems. And so the current quarter is showing $7.7 million of current liabilities, whereas last year, this time, it was $9 million. And so that fits my understanding of your circumstances. Going down to the non-current liability section, again, you're going to see stable results here because the games really don't affect your non-current liabilities to the extent that they do for the current liabilities. And again, $4 million for both this quarter, this year, as well as the first quarter last year. Scrolling down to the net position section, notice that ultimately, when you net everything down, we're showing fairly stable results between this time last year as well as this quarter. Let's flip to the next page for the income statement. This is probably more interesting in terms of evaluating watery performance. As I indicated, the operating revenues as well as the direct game costs are short by 1 month, and that's by design because we're just basing the financial report on the transactions that were posted to the accounting system as of September 30th, and some of the actual transactions were invoiced and received by lottery in October. But the difference between total operating revenues this quarter versus total operating revenues for the first quarter of last year is about a $12 million difference. That calculates to about a 35% difference, which is pretty close to 33, which is to say 1/3. And so that all conforms to what I'm saying. There's just 2 months, not 3 months worth of activity. So that decrease of $12 million is based on 1 month's revenues. Similarly, in the direct game cost section, you see $18.9 million of direct game costs this quarter and $25.5 million of direct game costs last quarter. So that's all in alignment with the same statement that I keep making, that 2 months versus 3 months. In the operating expense section, these are not affected by the journals that have been the source of our problems. And both this quarter as well as last year is about $1.2 million. And so there's much more stable results, and that fits my expectations. Scrolling further down, I'll skip over the non-operating revenue section. That's trivial interest earnings. The operating transfer that we're recommending to the council or the commission is $1.6 million. And again, that's based solely on what's been posted to the accounting system as of September 30th. Again, the 2 months versus the 3 months of activity. And so that number makes sense to me that it is lower than what we typically would expect. I will pause at this point. Is there any questions?
But so as this catches up though, so this 2 months, we start going forward. Next quarter, we're going to see the 3 months, but it's going to be the last 3 months, right? So there's going to be that extra timing month. So it'll be back to normal, but it might not be truly apples to apples because we're still comparing an accrual basis quarter to a cash basis quarter. Is that fair?
Yes, correct. Okay. With one caveat, for the fourth quarter, you probably will want to post some accrual entries in for that annual report.
Right.
And so the fourth quarter will, going forward, always be a little bit different because additional accrual entries will have been posted and recognized in the accounting system during fiscal year end closing.
Because those are going to have to be reported on a formal audited financial.
Yeah, so these quarterly reports are not audited.
Right.
And but your annual report will be. So we want to get those accrual entries in it for that.
Good accruals.
Yep.
Okay.
Flipping now to the next page, this is your budget to actual report. And so the middle column is actually directly the same as what we were just looking at, but the budgetary numbers, scrolling down just slightly, total revenues are currently at 15% of your budget. That makes sense to me because you're only showing 2 months. If it was truly 3 months for the quarter, you'd be closer to 25%. 15% makes sense to me. And the direct game costs is actually at 18% of budget. Again, that makes sense to me because actually, while some of the direct game costs are only 2 months, some of them are actually 3 months. So I did look into that, why there was a slight increase for direct game costs versus operating revenues. And ultimately, I don't see a problem there. But so that's where you're at for direct game cost budget. In your operating expenses, you're at 21%, which is approaching 25%. what I would expect. So I'm not bothered by that slight difference between 21 and 25% of your budget. And then we get down to the bottom, and where it says net income is 0, that is actually correct, right? So state law requires every penny of your profit to be transferred to other funds. So that's essentially what I would expect to see there. With one exception, but it's not shown in this report, the change in your pension numbers will reflect as a number because it's not cash, but let's not talk about the details of the pension.
Yeah.
Really determined.
It's one of the, but excuse me, these are one of the things that make the financial statements hard to read though, too. These accruals and these random adjustments that are made for non-cash pension accruals, like when you're talking about balance sheets not adding up, and it makes this whole thing it makes it a little harder to read, in my opinion, as just somebody that's used to looking at balance sheets without these kind of hypothetical numbers, I guess, or I don't know what the best way to say that is that they do make the financial statements difficult to read, in my opinion, and it's difficult.
I would layer onto that idea that statute requires you to transfer on a cash basis,
right,
your profit. And so it's causing, and it has been causing for years, a misalignment between the transfer determination and the actual transfer that you're making.
Yeah.
If we could flip to my favorite schedule that has been historically presented to the lottery. I like this schedule, as I've mentioned before, because it gives users an opportunity to look at each individual game, and you can kind of evaluate, for example, in the operating section, you have some advertising expenses there. Or how much bang for your buck are you getting on those advertising expenses? You can scroll down to the bottom of this schedule, and there's always these 2 rows at the bottom that talks about profit as a percentage of revenue. Now, one caveat, because the results are unusual this quarter, I'd caution that nobody should take too much from those bottom 2 rows, where it says, for example, on the scratch game, that the profit as a percentage of revenue is negative 4.3% in the first column. Don't make any decisions based on these numbers. I could have deleted them from this financial report, but I want those numbers to continue moving forward in the financial reports. The results here are being skewed because of the timing of journal entries. And so we have some unusual results again being shown here, but nevertheless, I do really like this schedule for what it offers from an analytical perspective. So with that, that's the financial report. Again, the big issues still continue to be, we have many corrections that we've posted and that we will continue to need to make posted in fiscal year 26. The transfer obligation is a bit lower this quarter, but I have a reasonable explanation for it. And then your cash position is concerning. But again, we also have a reasonable explanation for that. And you are sitting in the black at this point in time. So the worst of it perhaps is over. Any questions from the commission?
So the
Motion.
the recommendation then, the financial report on the cash basis is showing it's what was it, 1.6.
1.6.
To approve as a transfer to the general fund. So yeah, I entertain a motion to approve that transfer, the financial report. Made the motion.
All right, I'll approve the financial report.
Jen, is that a second? Yep. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, hearing none. Motion carries, transfer approved, financial report approved. Thank you very much, Chet, again. Appreciate the work of you and Jolene. I know Jolene's working really hard on this too, and the whole group and the state. It's been great, and look forward to seeing this thing through. Okay. So moving on from the financial report, let's go turn it over to Director Corey Bailey, security update.
Good morning, like I said, Corey Bailey and Commissioner. I would love to have the Cliff Notes version because I'm getting a whole lot of information every day. So if you find that, let me know. We can learn together. So we started same game parlay starting in November. Just reminder on parlay, just as the 2 or more bets on the same or on a game. Sorry, same. Oh, back one. Single bet that links 2 or more wagers. So with the same game parlay, that definition, please, allows you to combine multiple selections for the same sporting event. So we had to do a new game parameter for that. So new game parameter just lets it know on that, and that you can, if one of the bets is void, that's the whole, or void's the whole bet. So if you make 3 parlays on a bet and one of them doesn't win, that whole bet is void. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, this was, again, we started same game parlay and we needed to ensure our game parameters aligned with the rules for same game parlay. So we added this new rule, number 16 in general parameters to account for same game parlay.
Yep. See, I told you I need that Cliff Notes version.
Don't
Also, just an update on the bulk ticket arm. The public comment closed on November 21st. During that public comment, we had over 25 comments, which asking for a hearing, which opened up the need to have a hearing. There was actually 27 requesting a hearing. So that has been set up. So sorry, if we want to do a reminder on the bulk ticket, it's just anybody that purchases over, or group that purchases over 5% of both scratch or any lottery game in a 24-hour period. Sorry about that. Which caused a couple changes in different arms for the revocation or suspension of license, basically penalties for both the business and for people who do the bulk purchasing. So we had 27, which triggered a supplemental notice being published in the Montana Administrative Register. So once that is done, it requires another 20-day waiting period for public comment, which would have set the hearing sometime during the week between Christmas and New Year's. So we pushed that hearing out to January so that people have the opportunity to do that. So the hearing will be scheduled for January 5th at 1 p.m. And that's been published it'll be published as of tomorrow in the register. Go ahead. Last thing, we had a new contract for janitorial services. Bid was awarded to a McCall Cleaning, but they underbid the contract and they backed out. So the next bidder was ABM, which is our current contractor, and they accepted and will honor their bid and will continue.
Okay.
Any questions for me, or in this case, Phil? Thank you.
No, that's good. Thanks, Rick, Billy. So moving on to finally wrap up with the director's report from Director Brown.
Well, I'm gonna say with all that we've been through, I don't really have anything to add. There's a lot going on here. Everybody's doing a fabulous job. You know, and I think, so many of these things are gonna be coming to a conclusion on some of the issues that we've had and moving forward from there. So, with that, I will just turn it back to you.
Okay. Very well. Any additional public comment? Know anybody online or?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I want to go back. I'm sorry, I've been worrying about it the whole time. When we choose a sale agent, they have, we have requirements of a sale agent, and I understand charging more for a credit card, but like Mr. Chairman said, we charge $10 if you want to go on this line and beat the line for the Montana Millionaire. I think we need to have, and I appreciate Commissioner Metropolis willing to stand up, but I think we need to have some kind of rules above that. And, you know, there's benefits for being one of our sales agents. You know, you get people in your business, maybe they buy a Coke. So I think we need to make some rules so people don't do things like you can jump the line for $25. I mean, I think we have to, logical, the credit card, I understand. The courier service, they're paying for a service. So I understand that. But I think we better look at that more carefully because we opened a can of worms.
I agree.
Thank you, John.
I think that, I mean, my statement was kind of hypothetical, but I agree totally that there's a, you know, maybe it's just a matter of, and I guess these folks that working with our working with our retailers and, you know, I guess trying to pick out, you know, some if stuff like that's going on. I mean, we'd like to know about that, you know, outside of this courier issue with this, which is kind of its own separate thing.
Yeah, we can definitely investigate any opportunities to beef up our language for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would preface it also saying that we know nobody who's charging people
Right.
for
Right. Right.
Right. I was making.
But
Yeah.
Hope they're not watching.
Brilliant. As you said 25 cents. I said. No, I'm joking. You came up with it. I added $10. You said 25 cents. You. Okay. All right. I guess looking at our next meeting, March 12th, 9 a.m. That sound okay for everybody?
The hearing that
Yes.
us on January.
No,
Sorry, Secretary of State's office sets it up and it'll be in this room. It's a,
But it's not the commission.
no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I mean, you're certainly welcome to attend if you choose to. It's open to the public, so it is a public meeting, but
It will be an in-person meeting and it will be recorded for the record. But the commission is not required to attend.
I just not there.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I guess, you know, one of the things I'd like to say before we decide to adjourn, I know this had come up when we were talking about some of these issues around about having a closed session. I don't know if the commissioner, you know, if the commission has, you know, maybe all want to get on the same page and call an executive session around a personnel issue and kind of talk about this. If you guys are interested in that, I don't know if Dawn Harris is still on the phone and you know exactly what the legality of that is, but I know I had looked into that in the past, and I'm just wondering if you guys want to do that, I'd be happy to do that. And I think what that means is we could you know, basically ask everyone to leave the room except the commission and have a private discussion among ourselves. It's my understanding that this is only called for in the case of a real sensitive issue, you know, where we could do this, if it has to do with a personnel issue or something that needs to be kept private. And I think this, in my opinion, this, well, looking back at what happened back in the past with Arma would qualify for that. And I don't know, you know, if we want to clear the air, because the other thing around this communication between the commission, like we've done, stuff comes up and I'm calling every one of you individually, because if two of us get on an email or two of us get on a call, we have an unsanctioned meeting, right? Three of us get on a call. So this communication gets a little tricky, and I think maybe whether it's right now or maybe down the road that we have an executive session where we talk, you know, and due to public interest, you can't just do executive sessions willy-nilly, right? It has to be something serious, you know, a legitimate, you know, personnel issue to discuss. And I'd be willing to have that right now or down the road. I don't know if, you know, Commissioner Metropolis, I think your point is well taken around the communication around this, and I'd be happy to discuss that if you guys are interested, or if you want to call it a day, that's fine as well. So, yeah, John, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate your point. I'm not sure that we can do that. Again, I'd have to ask Dawn, because the subject would be someone who's no longer an employee. But having said that, I think the subject really would be to inform people like me who is not savvy enough to figure out what he should have been noticing. Is that the idea, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, or just to you know, I think that, you know, somebody who is an accountant and a savvy didn't notice it either. I mean, this stuff is really complicated. I think I've spent about 3 hours on the phone on these Zoom calls with Chet and these folks at the DOA. And I mean, I understand a debit from a credit, but this stuff is very complicated, and it's these financial statements, you know, there's a million of these different accruals and timing issues going back and forth. And the issue wasn't necessarily, I guess, you know, to go back and say, hey, we think there's an issue with the books. So we thought there was an issue with Armand was the issue, right? There was a personnel issue with Armand and some stuff around him specifically. Not that necessarily that there was an issue to be concerned about the books. It's like, hey, what's going on here with Armand? And, you know, the thought was, hey, well, the next question that comes up after that is, okay, well, is there an issue with the books? If there's an issue with Armand, let's call some people and see if so that was the discussion. So I don't necessarily think that I had a reason to believe that, you know, that the books were, you know, all that were messed up. For all I knew, Armand was fine, but there was an issue, there was a personnel issue with Armand at the time. And that's how we handled it. And you know, looking back, I wish I would have called everybody individually, or maybe we should have went into executive session on that day. I'm pretty sure that was one of the days we were approving the, you know, we were having a discussion where I remember Dawn, there was a discussion around that Intralot contract. I mean, it was a super intense time around that time with the commission. But if you guys want to hash that out, and if Dawn thinks that's appropriate, we could do that. Maybe down the road, the 5 of us could get on executive decision and discussion to talk about what that personnel issue was. So that's all I'm saying.
I appreciate your point, and if Dawn says we can do that, that's fine. For myself, I have something else I really should do at 11, so I'd rather not do it today, I guess.
That's fine. Maybe Dawn can get back to me through that and see if we can maybe just talk about this one specific issue, because I think it's important.
Yeah, any time.
Okay. If that's appropriate and we want to do it and we want to call that, we could figure out how to make that happen procedurally and legally and make it happen with everybody. You all get on the same page.
Yep.
Okay, so we've hit the agenda. Anything else for the good of the order from any of the commissioners? I know we asked for public comment.
March 12th, 9 a.m. is good.
March 12th, 9 a.m.
That works.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That good.
Okay, moved and second. That's all we need. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.